Welcome to the podcast version of the Week Air Review newsletter, which you can subscribe to for free at newsletter.theweekairreview.com. Subscribers get every issue instead of just the ones I feel like recording, and also get them when I write them and not. Eventually, this was posted a little while ago. This is issue number 7, ranking the Best Picture Nominees 2026 edition. Last month, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced the nominees for the 2026 Oscar ceremony. And you know what? I think they did a pretty good job. 2025 had a lot of great movies, and while the Week Air Review Discord member Sebastian pointed out how frustrating it is that award season collapses a year into like 10 to 20 movies, at least this year those movies were all solid. There's nothing like Emilia Perez here sucking out the air. But it inspired me to bring back a tradition from the YouTube days, ranking the Best Picture nominees. And it took me a while to do this because my feelings changed as I fleshed out my thoughts, sometimes in ways that surprise me, and in one way that will offend at least one of you. But that's fine. Unfortunately, because of the way my brain works, I'm actually going to be fairly negative about a lot of these movies before I say all the positive things I feel about them. But no matter how negative I seem, I like most of these movies at least a lot. I gave 7 4 or more stars on Letterboxd and 1 more a hearted 3.5. Even the 2 that I didn't necessarily like, each 3 stars, I wasn't mad about having seen. And without further ado, number 10, The Secret Agent. The last movie I saw on this list, literally the day the nominees were announced. So if you were worried about recency bias, nope. When I first saw that there was a beloved movie out of Cannes called The Secret Agent, I was like, oh, that's fun. And then I saw a single still and thought, there's no way this movie's about secret agents. And I am sad to say I was right. Director Kleber Mendonça Filho told Screen Daily that he chose the name because it was mysterious, exciting, and sexy. And while I'll grant him 2 of those adjectives, the only thing mysterious about this film is why. Because there is no mystery here. Our protagonist, Marcello Wagner Moura, has already figured out the conspiracy, leaked it to the press, and is now under a sort of witness protection because the people involved in the conspiracy big mad about it. We, the audience, don't know what it is for a while because it takes a while for someone to just sit him down and tell people, aka us, what's what, and that doesn't make for a particularly satisfying story. It's frequently confusing, not because it needs to be, but because it chooses to be. And also because there's a weird fucking cat with 2 faces and shit. Like, what the fuck is that about? There are all these strange choices that I kept waiting to be justified, and when the attempt at justification comes in the final minutes, I thought, oh, followed shortly by, nah, because it doesn't earn that explanation. Originally, I had a paragraph here, which you could skip over. For this version where skipping is annoying, I'm just going to put the spoilerific words on screen. So if you want to pause and read those, you can do so. And if you don't, we're going to move on. The Secret Agent does not commit to the bit. And so the bottom of the list it is. Number 9, Train Dreams. Train Dreams is easily one of the most beautiful movies I've seen in years. It's a joke to say every frame a National Geographic Award-winning photograph, but also it's not really a joke. Like from shot to a POV of a falling tree, I was just absolutely awed by the imagery. This is the only movie on this list I was not able to see in a theater, and that is a damn shame. Though, unlike an entry on this list whose enjoyment is likely dependent on the screen it's seen on, I don't think even a big ol' IMAX showing would actually change my mind about this one because it's not spectacle, even as it's spectacular. I'd considered writing about the bleak double feature Train Dreams would make with Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice, certainly snubbed this year. If you think about the opening of the former and the shot that plays over the credits of the latter, it paints a pretty rough picture. Train Dreams depicts the inexorable march of time through the adult life of a tree feller. And if I had a southern accent, that would be a great pun. We are constantly reminded about the fleeting nature of life, how you and your loved ones, and also just people you don't know at all, are here one minute and gone the next, the violence of an uncaring world. It is critical that we live in the moment with what we have and appreciate them and appreciate what's around us because the world is beautiful. But Train Dreams fucks all of this up by adding truly the most irritating voiceover I've ever heard in a movie. Every so often, out of fucking nowhere, an omniscient narrator pops in to say some inane shit that I assume was taken straight from the novel being adapted, and every single time it made me genuinely mad. A movie like this shouldn't feel like it got notes from Netflix, like they added some bullshit in post because people might be watching on their phone and get confused that this movie about the passage of time has time passing in it. If it was a literal silent film, it would be at least a slot higher, and if it was a sound film without the VO, it would be even higher than that, but we got what we got, and what we got is number 9. Number 8, F1, the movie. Here's the spectacle. And I'll admit to feeling some philosophical moral conflict about this movie not being number 10, because to quote George Carlin talking about the 7th word you can't say on television, it doesn't even belong on the list. It just feels true, right? One assumes it's meant to be the popular pick, but there's a movie on this list that made nearly $100 million more in the US, at least, than this one did. F1 is no Wicked, which was an absolute phenomenon. It's not even a Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski's far better previous film. But I think there's an argument to be made that F1 deserves this particular nomination because the Best Picture award is given to the film's producers. And F1 may not be a great movie, but it is an incredible feat of logistics. If the logic of the Oscars is most rather than best, it shouldn't be, but it is, F1 has a credible argument for being at the top because those producers pulled off a damn miracle. The movie feels extraordinarily authentic because they just got the ability to film during actual races, able to put the actors up next to real racers in modified F2 cars on actual tracks. There's incredible camera work that involved building and networking some incredibly complex rigs. I don't know how much the custom iPhone camera was actually used. My guess is not much. But again, we're talking about most, and doing that at all is some most shit. And by being the most, we get true spectacle. Those racing scenes are amazing. In an IMAX theater, I fully forgot to breathe, something I haven't done since the first time I saw Mad Max Fury Road. And unlike Fury Road, after each race is a bunch of poorly written bullshit about uninteresting characters, but I accepted that as a moment to relax before the spectacle returned. And I think it's likely the case that your enjoyment of this film is one-to-one correlated with the size of the screen on which it's seen. Because if your vision isn't absolutely enveloped in the track, if your ears aren't ringing from the engine roars, then I can't imagine it even being good. And even on the largest screen in the world, it's never going to be great. Number 7, Frankenstein. Numbers 9, 8, and now 7 are really defined by their aesthetics. The grandeur of the mundane in Train Dreams, the technical prowess of F1, and now the sumptuous design of Frankenstein. This movie is exactly what you expect Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein to be, and I think the moment that really crystallized that for me was in watching the construction of this film's creature. Where other Victors von Frankenstein have put a new brain in an old body or maybe sewn some pieces together, this Victor handcrafts his creation from only the finest of corpses. Watching Oscar Isaac lovingly set the layers of sinew the way an overly ambitious parent builds their first child's crib is somewhere between haunting and beautiful, 2 words that could describe virtually every Guillermo del Toro production. And like so many overly ambitious parents, the revelation that he doesn't actually really want a kid at all is heartbreaking, especially in the second half where we see the story through the creature's eyes. It's been very cool to see where Jacob Elordi has gone with the big break he was given, where Euphoria's biggest breakout, Sydney Sweeney, has gone in a pretty chaotic direction and Hunter Schafer has not been able to show off much range. Elordi is teaming up with interesting directors, Sofia Coppola, Guillermo del Toro, Emerald Fennell, who use him in interesting ways. It's not entirely unlike the path Robert Pattinson followed, though Pattinson does just seem like a weirder guy than Elordi, and also like most people. Robert Pattinson seems super weird. I liked Mickey 17 a lot, especially on my second viewing, though it's hardly one of Bong Joon-ho's best, and I don't really think it was snubbed, and I know for a fact that Bong doesn't care about its lack of nominations, so whatever. In any case, Elordi, really good in this. Everyone is, frankly. It's kind of a firing on all cylinders sort of movie where I was just engrossed start to finish, and then it ended, and I thought, hell yeah, great job, team. And that's just enough to get you to number 7. Number 6, Begonia. If you've subscribed to this newsletter, there is a solid chance you've seen my review of Jung Joon-hwan's 2003 film Save the Green Planet, titled The 2003 Korean Movie We Should Be Talking About, in contrast to Oldboy, which is the 2003 Korean movie we do talk about. Slightly clickbaity, I'll admit. I also love Oldboy, which means that I freaking love that movie, an utterly singular work of absolute chaos that feels distinctly Korean in its hilariously violent tonal shifts. Introducing the film back at the screening I reviewed, director Ari Aster said, "You stuff as much movie as you can without it breaking." And somehow this one doesn't break. He specifically cited it as an inspiration for Midsummer, and his movies have only gotten more stuffed since. I'm sad I don't get to talk about Eddington here, which was totally snubbed and something I would put above any movie on the bottom half of the list, including this one. So, of course, Astor would be a producer on its English language remake, Begonia, which was originally set to be the 48th entry on the directors who remade their own movies letterbox list, but ended up being helmed by the Academy's favorite weirdo, Yorgos Lanthimos. And it's better for that. Begonia takes the same premise. A man and his helper kidnap a major CEO and torture them because the man believes that the CEO is actually an alien come to exterminate the human race. But it feels quite unlike its predecessor. And to some degree, that's a matter of simplicity. Begonia is much more tonally coherent. From start to finish, this is a pitch-black comedy thriller with maybe sci-fi elements, depending on how you think about the alien stuff. Like our paranoid YouTube videos breaking down the logistics of interstellar travel and communication and whatever. Science fiction? Arguably. And that makes it much more accessible, which is good because somehow this story feels more immediate 22 years later. It is so much easier for conspiracy to proliferate than it was. And Teddy, Jesse Plemons, is a very specific sort of armed incel. He is more quietly dangerous. He wears a suit and speaks in a professional manner. He's trying to convince the person he kidnapped and chained up that he's a nice guy, one of the good ones. And he gets very angry when she sees right through him. So we don't really like Teddy, or the type of person he represents. But neither do we like Michelle, the CEO, Lanthimos' muse, Emma Stone. And given the kind of people that we know high-powered executives are, I mean, alien or not, she probably deserves it, right? Michelle would totally be in the Epstein files. And sure, the revelation of what her company did to Teddy's mother makes his own motivations a little more suspect, but not in a way that makes you sympathize with his captive. Plus, she speaks to him in that condescending corporate jargon, which is itself a damn near alien language all its own. Begonia, more than its predecessor, is a film about power and consequences. Two significant changes this time around deal with Teddy's companion, then his girlfriend, here his autistic cousin, a stellar debut by Aidan Delbus, and the cop who comes to investigate, now Teddy's childhood babysitter, podcaster / comedian Stavros Halkias, who said that his family finally thinks he's successful because he's in a Yorgos Lanthimos film. And they radically reshape how we see this central character while adding some thematic weight that is arguably missing from Save the Green Planet. And I appreciate it. I think that this is about as good as an English language remake could be. It justifies its existence as a companion to the original that I look forward to seeing again at some point down the line. But also, it's no Save the Green Planet. Number 5, Hamnet. I was aggressively disinterested in Hamnet, even more so than The Secret Agent, because it's a real period piece, one that takes place centuries before electricity, where a character in old-timey clothes yells out at the street from an old-timey window in an old-timey house, "Who are you looking for?" And the old-timey people on the old-timey street say, "William Shakespeare." And I'm just like, ugh. I do love me some Billy Shakes, but I don't need to see a damn movie about him. Certainly not one by Chloe Zhao, who I think is above all a deeply earnest filmmaker, one of the many reasons The Eternals was bad, and earnestness makes all the things I don't like about the period even worse. But then there was that review quoted in the marketing that said it was the best movie ever, and while obviously that's a demented thing for someone to say in the immediate wake of seeing a movie, ignore my Letterboxd review of Everything Everywhere All at Once, followed by a whole bunch of people saying, no, but it is really freaking good, at which point it seemed like I would have to get over myself and see what the fuss was about. And it took a bit, honestly. Jesse Buckley and Paul Mescal are expectedly excellent, like fully engrossing me in their story. But even the Eggers level authenticity did not get me invested in the setting, which is a shame because Zhao uses a lot of extreme wides that emphasize it over the performers. Like, I fundamentally disagreed with many of the shot choices, feeling like I was watching a play from the bad seats. And I live in New York City. If I wanted to see a play from a bad seat, I would sit in the Broadway nosebleeds. Thank you very much. And yet, Hamnet starts the top half of this list because none of what I just said matters in the face of two towering achievements. The first, a reaction to a character's death, hit me so hard I thought, is this the most effective bit of performance I've ever seen? And then the last 10 to 15 minutes happened, and I thought, no, maybe this is the most effective bit of performance I've ever seen. So yeah, the movie has two of the most effective sequences in recent memory, more immediate and affecting than anything in any of the other movies I'm talking about, and also not talking about here, though some stuff in the number 1 slot comes close. I cannot emphasize enough the effect that they had on me, and that just obliterated every criticism I had. Also, thank fucking God this isn't a movie about being Shakespeare, the tortured artist, as he abandons his family to be famous in London. We've got enough stuff like that. But you know we don't have enough? Number 4, Sinners. The true popular pick. While F1 made more money globally, Sinners made a whole lot more domestically and was the kind of phenomenon we have not seen since Barbenheimer. Like, my sister saw Sinners in a theater. My sister doesn't see anything in a theater. And there's a lot of metatextual stuff going on with this movie. Director Ryan Coogler notably got a very good contract that made a bunch of suits complain about the death of cinema or some shit because in 25 years he will get the rights from Warner Bros. / soon to be Netflix. It will be a Ryan Coogler film. Coogler himself has pointed out this deal is not entirely unique, but you don't have to think too hard to know why the reaction was so vicious. He is black, unapologetically so. He doesn't dress white or speak white, and that makes the white executives who you know would have loved to own plantations in the antebellum South so mad. They want to own him and his art, and wouldn't you know that's literally what the fucking movie's about. Life imitates art, imitates life. But putting all that aside, this is just one of the coolest movies to ever be up for Best Picture. It just oozes that particular adjective and is so obviously great in a way that anyone can appreciate. Like, who doesn't want to see a pair of twins, both played by Michael B. Jordan, show back up at their old stomping grounds to open a juke joint only for an Irish vampire to start fucking things up? Losers. And you're not a loser. You're subscribed to my newsletter or channel or whatever. You're less cool than Sinners, but you're pretty damn cool. Sinners is big, bold, bloody, and even a bit sexy. Seeing it in IMAX 70mm with the expanded aspect ratios for the action scenes, but most of all the music scenes, was incredible. The tracking shot through time is extremely cool, obviously, but gosh, that Irish dance hit so hard when the legs were the size of a house. Side note, is this the first time IMAX film has been like visibly color corrected? I have seen most of the movies shot on that format, and none of them look like this one, which is very cool. Plus, it's got deeper themes for anyone who wants to engage. This vampire being Irish, very significant. But even the dumbest dude on the damn planet will have a good gosh dang time. Really, it's everything you want from a night out at the movies, and it's cool as hell that this is now the most nominated movie in Academy Award history, beating the previous record held jointly by All About Eve, Titanic, and La La Land by 2. And I think it'd be even cooler if it won, because an unabashed popcorn horror movie has never been Best Picture, and even if Sinners is not the Best Picture of the year, it would stand out among its peers far more than the 3 films that I think are better. But there are 3 films I think are better. Number 3, One Battle After Another. I came to One Battle After Another pretty late in the discourse cycle because it released the day I left America for a month and I didn't want to spend any part of my time away in a movie theater. This meant that I saw the headline reactions, the Letterboxd scores, and YouTube titles without even knowing the basic premise, and so I knew I was going to like it because I am a millennial white man who went to something film school adjacent, meaning my life has been defined by Paul Thomas Anderson movies. I'm lying. I didn't actually watch most of his movies until my late 20s or 30s and watched 2 of them for the first time in the last few weeks because of the Screen Drafts episode, but that doesn't really matter. And I did super extremely like it. But I also knew that many of the more public-facing folks who didn't like it were black. People like FD Signifier, who I don't always agree with, but deeply respect. So that was there in the back of my mind for all of 5 minutes before it came straight to the forefront as I was faced with the film's first POV character, Perfidia Beverly Hills, Tiana Taylor, a member of the French 75, a radical organization that frees immigrants and blows up buildings and cool stuff like that. She's got a bomb-making boy toy played by Leonardo DiCaprio named Ghetto Pat because he likes black women, and she really likes sex. Like, there's a lot of sex and sex-adjacent action in the first 30 minutes of this movie. Not all of it's consensual, which is its own whole discourse that is worth digging into if you think it was. Yet Perfidia is not a real revolutionary. She likes holding up military men and planting bombs and all that, but when push comes to shove, she only cares about herself. And it's fine to have a protagonist who's in it for the wrong reasons, just as it's fine to have your movie about revolutionaries not be revolutionary. But man, Perfidia sucks. And unlike the other POV characters in the film, who are also self-centered in ways that get people hurt or killed, There's nothing to her but the fact that she sucks. Tiana Taylor is great at playing bad people. You should see 1001. But she struggles to find humanity in this character. In the end, Perfidia's just a rat, consigning her crew and family to death or constant fear of it. And this turns out to be a particular spit in the face of black liberationists because it sullies the character, the image of actual revolutionary Assata Shakur, who Taylor was explicitly inspired by in the development of the character and shares some superficial similarities, but was not critically a rat. FT Signifier talked about this. So you take that, and also the whole weird monologue by a character named Jungle Pussy, which is made weirder when you learn that the actor is a musical artist who goes by the name Jungle Pussy, whose lyrics are used in the film, including this pussy don't pop for you, which Paul Thomas Anderson put in because he liked her music so much. And I don't know, you should read Black Girl Watching's One Fetish After Another. Yet. Half an hour in, Perfidia walks out across the border to Mexico and out of the movie, at which point One Battle After Another becomes plausibly my number one of the year. I am deeply jealous that Paul Thomas Anderson and Ari Aster both got to work through their clearly complicated feelings about the present moment in expensive movies starring household names. One Battle After Another goes down a lot more smoothly than Eddington does, but they obviously come from the same place. The trailer has two of the bigger eye-rolling moments, but the they-them argument is probably beat for beat a conversation Anderson has had with his own child, and the revelation that the dismissive hotline operator telling a guy who has done things that he needed to read up on the texts is also a graying white man is an extremely good payoff to that. It's these side characters who really bring the world to life as they demonstrate different forms of power and values and movements. We have the clan descendants that I have already used multiple times to explain what WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, really means. We have the former French 75 who went into hiding but have not fully remained hidden and do still care about the cause. And we've got Sensei and his network. Benicio del Toro's most compelling performance in quite some time is also just like such a good example of what true community action looks like. Like the way he facilitates it all and the calm with which he does it is genuinely inspiring and extremely funny when placed beside Leo's frenzy. I would watch a 10-episode spinoff about Sensei for sure. Also, this movie looks so good. Like that final car chase, just mwah. Number 2, Marty Supreme. Living close to a movie theater offers me the very specific benefit of being able to go to late night showings during the week without being a total train wreck at work the next day. I can go home, immediately go to sleep for a few hours, then wake up and head over to an 11 p.m. screening of, for example, Marty Supreme. But even if I'm reasonably awake during these times, it does require the movie to be a certain level of exciting to keep me engaged past 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. And Marty Supreme is nothing if not exciting, which sucks for one half of the Safdie brothers because each released their debut solo feature in the same award season, and it's quite clear who the more compelling filmmaker is. Where Benny's The Smashing Machine failed to do much more than remind us what The Rock looked like when he had hair, fittingly his sole Oscar nom came for makeup and hairstyling, Josh's Marty Supreme whipped up a frenzy, and rightly so. What first promises to be the story of a ping-pong prodigy, Timothée Chalamet, quickly turns into something so much darker and stranger. After being utterly destroyed by a Japanese player who uses a technique Marty doesn't understand, he makes it his mission to get to Japan so that he can play the man again and win. So he needs to get money. But also his need to get money takes him in a million other directions, including pulling Gwyneth Paltrow, reminding us why she is famous, into an affair away from her husband, played by Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary, a.k.a. Mr. Wonderful, a.k.a. Sam Bankman-Fried's biggest supporter. I don't like Kevin O'Leary. See Sam Bankman-Fried's biggest supporter, etc. But I'll be damned if he isn't really fucking good in this movie. Filling out the supporting cast with non-actors is definitely a Safdie trademark. Kevin Garnett is similarly excellent in Uncut Gems, and we see others pop up like Tyler the Creator and even Penn freaking Jillette, who I recently saw at Radio City for Penn and Teller's 50th anniversary show. But the real reason that Marty Supreme is higher than One Battle After Another on this list, despite the fact that I frankly have a lot less to say about it, is because it soars where One Battle After Another falters. Marty sucks even more than Perfidia Beverly Hills does. There is absolutely nothing redeeming at him. At least Perfidia blew up some buildings and freed some immigrants. But he has a specific drive. He needs the world to know that he is the number one ping pong boy, and there is nothing he won't do to make that happen. He doesn't care at all what carnage and mayhem will be left in his wake, and I mean those things literally. This movie is wild. A friend of mine complained that I didn't warn her how absurd the whole movie is, which is a character flaw on her part, but it's definitely true that I never once predicted where this movie would go next, nor how low Marty would be willing to go to get what he wants. He is a truly loathsome individual surrounded by other loathsome people, and yet it is all utterly transfixing. Where Uncut Gems is a panic attack, Marty Supreme is a shot of epinephrine. I was so amped that when the credits rolled at 2 in the fucking morning on a flipping Tuesday, it was another hour before the adrenaline fully wore off. Like, so good. But not the best. Number 1, Sentimental Value. Where every other placement on this list was malleable and most things moved at least a slot, there was never a question that Sentimental Value would be at the top. Joachim Trier does not miss. There's a reason Telma was on my best of the decade list, standing in for an extremely popular brand of movies that is universally better than. Here he takes on another popular brand, the movie about people who make movies. Seemingly every storyteller eventually takes their crack at it, and 2025 had 3 in the run-up to awards season, though neither Noah Baumbach's Jay Kelly nor Richard Linklater's Nouvelle Vague received any Oscar noms. But while I genuinely enjoyed getting the glimpses of the way things happen behind the scenes, the making of the movie within the movie is not really that important. Sentimental Value is at its heart a family drama. Nora, a typically excellent Renate Reinsve, is a mostly theatrical actress whose father is a respected but now kind of washed-up film director, Stellan Skarsgård, and this director, Gustav, shows up one day and tells Nora that he wants her to be in a movie he's written. Which is weird, because Gustav didn't show up for anything. He was a terrible father, and Nora wants absolutely nothing to do with him. And Nora's sister Agnes, Inga Ib's daughter Lilias, is caught in the middle, as is her son Eric. And in Gustav's frustration, he ends up connecting with an American actress played by Elle Fanning, who was repping Sentimental Value and Predator Badlands simultaneously, because I guess she's got a really fucking good agent and gets Netflix funding and et cetera, for putting her in Nora's role. But he really wants to work with Nora, drama, etc. Coming at the top of this list, it's funny how slight that description makes Sentimental Value feel. There are no car chases or gunfights or physical injuries of any kind. Hamnet is the only thing that's close, but it is much more in your face in its drama, and also there's the 1500s of it all. Yet it's that comparative slightness that I think makes the film so effective, because this is a family drama set in right now. The difficulties these characters face are our difficulties. And so it's easy to see yourself in at least one and probably several of them. Though if you believe in the power of art, and especially if you aspire to make it, then the movie hits on a whole other level. Because Gustav isn't just trying to get his daughter to be in a movie that he made because he thinks she's a good performer. TBH, it's not clear if he thinks that at all because he doesn't see her stuff. The part was written for her because it is a movie about his family being shot in the home that they grew up in. And there's so much wrapped up in that history, in the nooks and crannies of an aging structure. As we learn more of the story, the more melancholic it all becomes. And then we see how those ideas are squeezed by the realities of production and the frailty of humans. And it's frustrating and heartbreaking. Oh God, that meeting between Gustav and his former cinematographer. But when it all pays off in the end, holy fucking cow, man, it sticks that landing so goddamn hard I wanted to cheer in the theater. Like, bravo to literally everyone involved in this production. Gosh fucking damn, number 1, no question. This has been the Week Air Review, the newsletter, the podcast. If you would like to sign up for free, there's also a pay what you want option for which you'll receive my undying appreciation, but nothing else you wouldn't get for free. You can do so at newsletter.theweekarreview.com, linked in the description below. Thank you, and I hope to write for you next time.